Nights at Freddy's has been a popular horror franchise for quite some time now, to the point of expanding beyond its initial run of games into books of varying quality and a feature film that was released 3 years ago. Every day I yell at my clock to slow down. Now, I gave my own thoughts on the movie when it released back then, but to summarize, while it had a fair amount of problems to be had, I enjoyed it overall and thought it was a nice love letter for fans. Of course, going in, I had heard wind of 2 more movies on the horizon, so I had hoped that they would take the lessons learned from the first movie and improve upon it in the next installment. And that seemed to be the case in the trailers for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, but did the final product deliver? Well, that's what we're here to discuss today, and yes, I said we, because joining me today is a good friend of the channel and fellow FNAF enthusiast. No, it's not Piffle. I made sure he didn't have any opportunity to hijack the video this time. Instead, allow me to introduce X-Freds.
Hey guys, my name is X-Freds, and thank you TS for inviting me to this video. Five Nights at Freddy's is one of my favorite franchises of all time. In spite of the amount of story issues it has, I enjoy the gameplay, the characters, and atmosphere in most of these games, and it's also why I met a lot of my friends on Discord. As for my thoughts on the first film, I thought it was good, almost great even. I do take issues in some areas like the horror factor, and a few out of place aspects in the film, but I thought everything else about it was solid enough for what I wanted. That said, I did have higher hopes for this film, since it seemed like it improved upon the first film. Now, whether or not it does is certainly up for debate. Regardless of such, just know these are our personal opinions, and if you disagree, that's fine in our book.
So with all that said and done, let's try as we like to survive 5 more nights, and be twice as wary, because these guys got a bite. So the basic premise of FNAF 2, the movie, is that it's been a few months, give or take, since the first movie. Mike wants nothing more than just move on with his life, but Abby and Vanessa aren't exactly doing the best with theirs. The former still misses her friends despite their attempts to kill her, and the latter suffering from extreme nightmares about her father. Sooner or later, Mike and Abby revisit the old building and grab a strange device that supposedly allows them to communicate with the FNAF cast, and not even a day later, the new villains of the movie, the toy animatronics led by the marionette, take advantage of Abby's naivety, to let them escape the pizzeria and cause carnage amongst the town.
What I do like about this is that it does try to work as a direct sequel to the first film, even though the actual FNAF 2 is a prequel. Not something major, but I do like the approach there. What I also liked was the intro scene. Charlotte is known as a very caring person initially, while not being known for the talkative type. As a whole, the intro of this movie is consistently the most well done in my opinion. I also love the ideas thrown at the movie for the most part. The story taking place in an even older location, with that staying true to the original FNAF 2 as well, is extremely well thought out. The voice work is pretty decent too. Also, while I won't say what the after credit scenes are, on their own, they are extremely cool, and are admittedly good for setting up the third movie.
As far as my positives for the story, I appreciate that this movie genuinely feels more like FNAF than the first movie. Yeah, that first installment had the animatronics, the pizzeria, and William Afton, but the actual plot didn't lend itself to the story of FNAF all that much, with the FNAF elements feeling almost like set dressing at times. Here though, the world is much more expanded to where it falls more in line with the actual events of the games, and Freddy's feels like a major place in said world before all the tragedy struck, rather than just a place that happens to exist in our real world.
Despite the positives, this plot has so many issues. The pacing is goddamn awful. The transitions, a lot of the time, feel so rushed and uninspired. Like this one where the puppet, or marionette, I don't know, literally pops out of Toy Chica's stomach after it cracks and then does a pop jump scare, and then cuts to driving.
Jump scare. Grab.
Meanwhile,
there's a crap ton of other moments like that too, but I'll move on for the sake of time. The nightmare scene is kinda weird too. Now, it's not bad. Like, the scene itself is decent on its own, but it kinda drags on longer than it needs to. The movie being noticeably shorter than the first one doesn't help either, and it honestly feels like another reason why the pacing feels so wrong.
Oh, you think the pacing is bad? How about the fact that nothing meaningful happens? All that stuff is set up, sure, but as far as pushing the story forward and developing our main cast, the most you get to that is the movie dangling keys but not actually opening the door. Every memorable moment in this movie can be written off as filler, with them being so short and sporadic across the runtime. Even when the movie ends, it feels like the characters are the same as they were, just with an extra dosage of trauma. Wait a minute, did I say the movie ends? No, it doesn't end. It screeches to a sudden halt a la Wile E. Coyote the moment the villains are killed, and all you get is a couple ominous teasers for the third movie because that's all this film is. A lot of setup, but no payoff.
Discussing the characters that I liked, I actually liked Vanessa in this film compared to the first. While it's still weird that she became a mainstay within the movie universe, I thought her character was written very well. She's passionate about leaving her dad's abuse behind while also needing to get done what needs to get done. While Mike does an okay job doing what he has to do, I thought Vanessa did a lot more of the heavy lifting between the two. I thought Abby was a decent kid character in the movie even though she's a bit less. She's still serviceable enough. Charlotte in the beginning of the film is very caring while also not being the talkative type as I said before, and is the main reason why the intro for this film is so great. She's my personal favorite due to all the depth within her character compared to everyone else, and for reasons I'll get into later.
Personally, while I generally liked Mike and Vanessa despite some dumb decisions on both their parts, I really liked William Afton for what little we got of him. The first movie still is my favorite depiction of the character by a long shot, but the sequel has a very good sequence involving him, really showcasing how much of an abusive father he was to Vanessa, and how deadly a manipulator he is. Hopefully this will finally put the tragic father theories in the dirt where they belong. As far as other characters, I did get some love-to-hate style enjoyment from Abby's teacher, played by the same guy who played Nedry in Jurassic Park. Sure, I could see some people writing him off as annoying, but I still found him entertaining as a minor villain. Plus, his karma at the hands of Toy Chico was very much deserved.
Honestly, Mike was just alright, but somewhat more unlikable. The fact that he left Vanessa after one extra secret when he was tolerating working with her just fine before, and the fact that he himself ignored the warning from her in the first place is annoying as hell to me. But that doesn't even compare to the hatred I have for this buffoon. No offense to the actor, but this is in my opinion the worst character in the goddamn film. Michael Afton, one of my favorite characters in the series, turned into a generic twist villain. Hell, you could barely even call him a twist villain, or not at all. Are you f***ing kidding me? He had a massive as hell depth within the games, and he redeems himself for all the horrible things he did in such a respectable manner. And this is what he gets in the films? I can't with this anymore. God, I f***ing hate movie Michael so goddamn much. TS, you go.
Well, that rant aside, I'm a lot more indifferent to most of the cast this time around. As you said, Mike has his own dumb moments, and Vanessa isn't much better in that regard. She really should have told Mike about the other pizzerias sooner and be more honest about how far William's evil went. Doesn't automatically validate Mike's rejection at the end, but Vanessa still has her faults. However, outside of them, most of the extended cast is either background characters or cannon fodder for the animatronics without much depth to speak of. Mike's friend and Doug having a cameo was neat, but anyone outside of the core trio was either disappointing or nothing. Except for Abby. This girl is a idiot in this movie. Now, she wasn't all that smart to begin with in the first movie, but at least it was a bit more excusable then due to the facade her friends put on. Here, it should be painfully obvious that these aren't her friends and that she's being duped by different animatronics, but nope, she just goes along with it, acting like the drastically different models are just an upgrade, and willingly lets the animatronics out despite every red flag waving in her damn face. Girl, you know your friends aren't around. Mike showed you as much. Use your brain. Or did you lose it because you were the real Bite of 87 victim all along? But of course we can't talk about a Five Nights at Freddy's movie without discussing the signature stars, the animatronics. How are they in this movie? Well, they were the best parts of it, no question. There are two sets of them this time, the toy animatronics and the withered animatronics, just like the video game. The toys not only look fantastic, being damn near indistinguishable from their game counterparts, but they serve as appropriate threats for the film. I am a bit disappointed that Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie didn't get much screen time, but they were at least enjoyable when they did get it. It is rather odd that they chose Toy Chica of all characters to be Abby's main friend, but she was still a good antagonist nonetheless, with Megan Fox doing a surprisingly good job voicing her. Seriously, everyone clowned on the decision to cast her initially, but now it seems we're the clowns now.
I agree with all that. I think they all look and sound fantastic. I also love that Mangle got a place in the film, and that scene where they chase Vanessa is just stellar. The puppet is where Charlotte's soul is being kept, much like the games, and this version of the character is so sinister and insane with the tactics, and I love it. My only issue is that I kind of find the puppet possessing trick to be kind of random, but it did give a very creepy look on Abby and Lisa at the very least. Great additions to this film.
It's a shame almost none of this praise can be extended to the Withers. Don't get me wrong, they look awesome and damn near video game accurate, but their actual role in the plot is damn near non-existent. They only appear during one sequence of the movie that is a half-hearted attempt at recreating the FNAF 2 office gameplay, and even then, without the context of being a night guard or a phone guy blabbing to you for 2 hours, the sequence falls flat for everybody, not just casuals who don't know the game. Even disregarding that, these guys are barely intimidating during the sequence. They're slow as molasses and they just kind of lunge forward a bit when they get to Mike, only to get duped by the Freddy mask and walk away. And Foxy, oh my goodness, Foxy, what did they do to you? From being one of the 2 most active animatronics in the first film to being a complete joke in this one. Not only does he not get the same reference treatment as the others, I mean they recreated Bonnie in the vents and Freddy and Chica's entrance to the office, but not Foxy standing in the hall or his jump scare. But when the mask fails to work on him for reasons that aren't explained unless you know the game, he just stands there and allows Mike to switch off the signal and only swings his hook at the very last second. What is this? 5 a.m. at Freddy's? Actually, no, it isn't, because the flashlight trick isn't brought up here either, despite Mike having a flashlight in this scene. It would have been one thing if Mike accidentally flashed Foxy after the mask failed, and that caused Foxy to stumble back or something, but no, he just looks like a moron with the slowest reflexes imaginable. So much for being the fastest animatronic.
You missed! How could you miss? It was 3 feet in front of you!
Good God. This even offends me. For reasons that are obvious as video length, I won't go on a rant about them either, but I also think they are a complete waste in this film. What I will go on a rant are the returning FNAF 1 characters in the final scene. Now, the scene itself is cool, but it also makes no sense. Like, they didn't do much whack and hack in the previous film, and they were under all the damn rubble. How the shit are they able to take down the toys in such rapid succession? Yes, I get the Twisted Ones reference. We get that. But at the same time, it's just so poorly put together. The only death I thought made sense was Toy Chica's given the missing chest. With the other ones, though? How did Foxy's leg completely break Toy Bonnie's face? How did Freddy tear Toy Freddy's torso that fast? How did Bonnie completely destroy Mango when they destroyed Worse? I'm sorry, I guess the OGs were the more powerful all this time.
You okay there, bud?
Son of a bitch, let's just end this already.
Now, given that this is a horror movie based on a horror game franchise, you would expect there to be some scares present. Sure, the first film wasn't trying too hard to be scary, at least until Afton showed up, but surely the second movie would make a better effort to be scary, right? Well, it's scarier than the first movie, but not by much. I appreciate the attempt at an atmosphere within the abandoned pizzeria, and I could definitely take these animatronics more seriously than the OG cast. However, the horror presented is very basic, if that makes any sense. The tension with the puppet is pretty good outside of the moderately goofy movements it makes with Abby, but with every other moment that tries to be scary, it feels like the standard jump scare fest people think the games are without realizing what made the jump scares work in those games. Oftentimes the jump scares are really cheap and predictable, and when the animatronics try to look intimidating, it doesn't really work all that well outside of 1 or 2 moments. Maybe it would have been better had Chica actually removed her beak more than once, but who knows.
As for myself, I thought it was fine enough, but I understand where you are coming from. There were definitely some moments where they could have done better, but I really love the environments and the general darkness of this film. I did think there were a few too many action-based scenes for my liking, but it didn't mess up the pacing of the film more than other things. The jump scares were sometimes good, then you have the puppet.
Hello?
Aside from that, I thought it was passable. The kills were very good, and much better than the first movie in that regard. Sadly, that's all I can really add on that.
You know, it's funny. When I watched the first FNAF movie, I was more than a little unsure of how I felt, but after giving it a second watch, I ended up appreciating it way more than I initially did. Wouldn't you know it, history repeated itself with a second, only instead of appreciating it more, I appreciated it less. There are definitely elements of the movie I like, especially as a fan, but there's an equal or greater amount that either annoys or flat out pisses me off that I can't say this is anywhere near as good as the first. Heck, this honestly reminds me of the original FNAF novels, not just in the sense of them both ending with nods to how those books ended, but also in their quality. The Silver Eyes and FNAF 1 are really good, albeit with some flaws, while the Twisted Ones and FNAF 2 are a very mixed bag. That, coupled with Blumhouse's frankly ridiculous response to anyone who didn't like the movie, regardless of whether their criticisms were justified, has made me greatly concerned for FNAF 3, especially since Springtrap is one of my favorite villains of all time. I at least hope it's better than the Fourth Closet, and hope it doesn't go down that book's route. But who knows? Those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it after all.
The fact that many of us thought it would improve upon the first movie more than it really did is just sad. The movie is good in some areas, but in other areas, it just makes me flat out dislike it. The references were good, yes. A good portion of the main characters were good, yes. Those alone don't make the movie itself good. With a plot that leaves the most to be desired, specific moments in the film that could be described as some of the worst moments in the entire series in my opinion, lacking any cohesion whatsoever, I thought this movie was painfully mediocre. So mediocre that it honestly rivals Security Breach in terms of disappointment in a FNAF product. To all the actors in the film and all who enjoyed it, I'm really sorry, but I just can't. This is coming from someone who has been with FNAF since 2015. I guess it isn't the most surprising thing in my case since I don't like FNAF 2, the game, very much. If y'all like it, that's fine. But for me, nah, not that much.
At the end of the day, this has all been just our own opinions, and while there are many who love this movie with all their hearts, I can only speak for myself and my own experience. And that experience gives it a flat 5 out of 10. Not a high or a low 5 out of 10, just a smack dab in the middle 5 out of 10. It is a movie that exists with pros and cons galore that even each other out to mediocrity at its finest.
For me, I heavily value the positives I have for the movie. I really do. But the stuff that I hate just sticks out to me so much. I can watch the first film without any trouble. This one, I give it a half a point higher to a 5.5 out of 10, but only because I'm generous and I like the horror aspect slightly more than my friend here. That's all.
So with all that said, be sure to sound off what you think of the movie in the comments, and I hope you look forward to my next project, which was hinted at in a post I made a couple months ago. This one hasn't been guessed yet, so this is your last chance to get it right. In the meantime, we'll say what we always say. See you next time, everybody.